Hey lovely sexy hobby people, welcome to today's video, which is going to be a look through this book that I picked up recently. The author's Arthur Ward, and it's about classic kits, collecting the greatest model kits in the world from Airfix to Tamiya. Now it's a bit of a nostalgia thing really, for a lot of us that have been collecting on making model kits since a young age. So this is the first time I've owned this book. What are we looking? This production says 2012, copyright 2004, so it's potentially been here out for a while. Just obviously look at the back, the Ferguson tractor. And then obviously the front. Now this is the old Matchbox Stuart tank, Stuart Honey tank, and Aurora. I've not seen much of their stuff. To be honest, a lot of kits in the UK back in the 80s, I seem to only really remember Matchbox, Humbrol, Italeri, Hasegawa, Tamiya, Airfix obviously. Did I say Airfix? Did I say Matchbox? Matchbox, Airfix, Tamiya. They seem to be the main ones, and then there was like Hasegawa, Italeri, Hella, Humbrol, and a couple of others that I seem to kind of remember the most. I don't really remember a lot of the other brands that are going to be mentioned in this book. But opening it up, okay, we've got some really nice artwork here. Looks like the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. So Hurricane, Lancaster, and a Spitfire. And then we're into the introduction, and it says here, by the late Victorian age, industrialisation and the increased shift from rural to urban dwelling compelled massive lifestyle changes amongst British population. The coming of the 20th century hastened this revolution. Individuals, mostly men, went from their homes to a separate place of work and came back at a regular hour each day to enjoy a certain amount of free time. Time at ease could be spent in pursuit of sport, in the pub or club, of course, at home in the fulfillment of personal interest. The hobbyist was born. So, yeah, looking back, and whilst I don't remember this particular Tamiya catalogue, I did own a couple of Tamiya catalogues in the past. So, history development of scale modding models. So, talking about various concepts and how things came together. I suppose dolls' houses are quite a relevant starting point for model kits, because obviously a lot of people would have had dolls' houses before the introduction of like injection molded plastic kits, and I assume that at some point somebody put all the parts that you needed to make a certain bit of furniture or a certain type of doll into a bag and sold it as a kit. But yeah, just looking at this, I mean, this Skybirds model aeroplane, delightfully evocative and eminently collectible. Skybirds packaging for their pre-war 1/72 scale Hawker Hurricane multimedia kit. Multimedia. So was that plastic, wood, metal, maybe? And again, I mean, I can remember sort of like Erector sets and then the Meccano sets that came out, and we had something like that. And then obviously Lego. Going the distance and classic brands. So, Accurate Miniatures was not a brand that I remember from my childhood. Obviously Airfix. And then the Ferguson tractor, the little model that the creator of Airfix used to help sell the salesman, basically, of Ferguson. But then people wanted it in parts, as I understand. And Airfix used to do lots of other things as well. So, was Flight Deck an Airfix product where you had to land the Phantom on the flight deck? I kind of want to say it was. And here we get some of the classic stuff. So things like these 132 scale polyvinyl vehicles, and I remember these as a kid, mostly the HO00 scale ones, but I certainly remember seeing these about, and obviously the boxed kits. But I also remember the ones that were carded with a blister. I remember those. And of course the play sets that they did, where you got a fort and figures, you know, and obviously the famous play sets that they had. I think probably the most famous play sets that they had were the Airfix assault sets. So you had Le Haysant for Waterloo, with French and British, and a model of the farm Le Haysant. And then you had like the gun emplacement for Second World War. You had the pontoon bridge, and you had the coastal defence fort as well. And I can remember building a model of HMS Hood with my dad as a kid. And he told me about, I didn't read it to begin with, but he told me about HMS Hood and what happened during World War II and how the Bismarck sunk it, etc. And that was kind of like my starting entry point into military history for me. But yeah, play sets. And again, the 132 scale figures were very much a thing. So I collected those as a kid, as well as the HO00 as they were at the time. I didn't have any of the spacemen, and I didn't have any of the sort of like the ancients, like the Romans or the Britons and that sort of thing. But I had, you know, all the World War II stuff, like the Japanese infantry, the German infantry, German Fallschirmjägers, the Italian infantry, the British commandos, both types, the US Marines, both types, British infantry, only the later type, the British paratroops as well, 8th Army, Africa Corps. I mean, the range was really good. And I remember these on the back of the 132 scale and HO00 scale boxes. They had these little colour plates showing you the uniforms and like the colours and that. But yeah. So yeah, Airfix Super Hovercraft playset. We were gifted a completed 124 scale Harrier GR1, which was nice. I don't remember seeing these much as a kid. I remember getting, so we had the Bamboo Jungle Outpost. I remember getting that in 132 scale. And yeah, that was the one that I mostly remember. I don't remember these in HO scale. But yeah, so many kits as a kid that were built, and broken and thrown out. And it was very much a case of Airfix, Matchbox and Tamiya were my go-to kits as a kid. So AMT, now I remember AMT because they were kind of the ones which took the took over the Airfix Star Wars kits. I don't remember Aurora Plastics. But vaguely enough, I kind of remember this 1/12 scale Mr. Spock, but I didn't know it was Aurora. Bandai, again, another company that I don't remember, but I remember obviously as I got older, Dragon's a kit, a manufacturer that I remember, you know, from sort of like 2000 onwards. Eagle Wool, don't remember them at all. But it looks like they had quite a range actually, quite a lot of ships. One of the biggest things that really used to annoy me, and I don't know if anybody feels the same, and I do appreciate that people want to protect their own IP, so they bring stuff out in different scales to other manufacturers, was the fact that, for example, you could buy Airfix, I think they did 1/600, but Matchbox, so 1/600 ships, but then Matchbox did their ships in a slightly different scale, and it was really frustrating that I couldn't, you know, ships that I couldn't get with Matchbox but could with Airfix wouldn't be the same scale, so I couldn't, you know, marry them up, as it were. That I found frustrating. So Fala again is something that I only came across sort of like in my adult years, and they're something that I came across looking in a model train shop, specifically I think the engine shed in, is it Ford, East Sussex, West Sussex? Frog I'd heard of but never seen. But yeah, I mean, just looking at some of the old, wow. Is that, oh crap. That's, it says British Tank Commander there, but is that not the massive FV4005 that had that massive turret? And no, that's something else, isn't it? Because that's not a Centurion chassis. That's something else. But it's giving me that big tank with the big, like, shed-like superstructure for the massive gun that was on, I'm fairly certain it was on a Centurion chassis. Fujimi. Now, I'd heard of Fujimi. I'd seen some Fujimi kits, but not many. And again, Hasegawa, again, I'd heard of them. I'd seen the odd kit in model shops, but not many. Hawk. Hysterex. And now that is something, Hysterex was a brand name that I read about in some of the model magazines that I purchased. So again, back in the 80s, I used to get the Airfix magazine, model magazine, and the Tamiya model magazine. Hella. So yeah, as I said, Hella Humbrol was kind of like the ones that I remember, and I can remember seeing, like this one here, Hella Humbrol, boxes in the UK saying Hella Humbrol. And Impact, never heard of those. Italeri, or Italeri. And again, I've built some of their kits in the early 2000s, some of their figure kits in 135 scale. Lovely, absolutely loved them. And again, Johan, Kleeware, never heard of these guys. So I'm assuming that these might have been more American markets. But I mean, British company Kleeware, never heard of it. Lifelike, Lindbergh, never heard of those. And then obviously we're into Matchbox. And like I said, it was very much Airfix, Matchbox and Tamiya that I used to build. But the Matchbox kits were brilliant because we used to get the figures. But one of the things that used to annoy me with the Matchbox kits was, for example, you used to get the half track and the Pack 40 anti-tank gun, you know, which was great, but you didn't get a crew for it. That was the thing that I wanted to see. I wanted to see crews for it, which is why I then started migrating over to 135 scale, because Tamiya, you'd buy a Pack 40 and it'd have a crew with it. You buy an 88 centimetre flak, sorry, an 8.8 centimetre flak, not 88 centimetre, that'd be fucking huge. 8.8 centimetre flak. You get a crew with it. So that was one of the reasons why later on I started migrating more towards Tamiya and the 135 scale. But yeah, monogram again. Saw the odd monogram kit. Mostly it was these, when I saw monogram kits, they were mostly these sort of like licensed products, like with Blue Thunder here, and other tie-ins. Masters of the Universe, never seen those before. Sequest, DSV, you know, again, it's a tie-in, it's a licensed product. Nito, don't remember these. Pyro, Renwar, again, never heard of them. Full size 16-inch model, French wheel lock pistol. Wow. Revel, yeah, sorry, heard of Revel, especially after they bought out. Especially after they bought out Airfix, I started seeing a lot more Revel products in the UK. But yeah, a lot of their kits were really nice, that I remember buying. Their 172 scale or 176 scale figures, like their set of German artillery, fantastic. 2 artillery pieces, 1 being towed and 1 with a full crew, you know, and loads of accessories and ancillaries that came with the kit, so you can make a really nice diorama with it. You know, and that was just something that blew me away. Space Station Mir. And Revel, I think, have quite a broad spectrum of model kits. They do a lot of Star Wars and Star Trek, as well as sort of like NASA. We've got other projects, like they do a model of a rescue ship, I think, you know, which is really interesting, really different. See, I don't remember these, like the Rambo models. I kind of vaguely remember the Batman stuff. Jacques Cousteau's Calypso. Wow. So I remember watching Jacques Cousteau, sort of like oceanographic programs on TV, where he'd be like diving and you'd see what he would be exploring or whatever. So that'd be interesting to build. I wonder if it's still available. Rosebud Kitmaster. Says here, short-lived kit manufacturer. That's probably why I've never heard of it. Kitmasters. A lot of trains though. So maybe that was why. Maybe they got bought out. Haven't seen Dapol in this. Obviously, Dapol bought out some of the Airfix molds for their line side track series. So like all the buildings and some of the... because I can remember building a little cattle truck once, which was Airfix branded, but then it disappeared and I couldn't find it again. And then years later, I remember seeing it branded as Dapol. Skybirds, never heard of them. Tamiya, here we go. Before the introduction of plastic injection moulding technology to Japan after the Second World War, Japanese craft toys and models had always been from indigenous timbers like Japanese cypress, magnolia and katsura. Shizuku City, a suburb of Tokyo, had long been the centre of the manufacture of these artefacts. Along with numerous timber yards and finishing mills, the area boasted the highest concentration of craftsmen skilled in the precision assembly of fine wooden products. Not surprisingly, these skilled artisans were ideally suited to the switch in manufacturing techniques that was introduced during the 1950s to replace the smashed machinery of a defeated Japan. Consequently, Shizuku City became the location for the introduction of the latest injection molding technology, which transformed local industrial capacity as factories abandoned wood, began producing products made from plastics. Today, almost all Japan's plastic construction kit manufacturers, among them Ashima, Hasegawa, Fujimi and Aimei, are based in the area. However, of them all, Tamiya is preeminent and today enjoys an unrivaled reputation for the finest firm of its kind anywhere in the world. And that was the thing. As a kid, I used to love Tamiya models because of the way that they were packaged, the way that they were produced on the sprues, and just the way that they went together. Yeah, Tamiya Model magazine had several. I might even have had this one, which had the Enterprise in it. I used to like the Tamiya catalogue. I've not seen a Tamiya catalogue in a really long time, but they used to have like the double pages in the centre would be like a couple of dioramas. And here you go. German 18-ton Famo half-track released in 1999, and the groundbreaking 1/18th scale radio-controlled Tiger 1. So I can remember my brother got the Chieftain in 1/35 scale, and it had the motorised body with the little. It was, if I remember, it was like just a little touch button control that was still attached by wire to the back of the tank. But that was great. We had loads of joy out of that. So yeah, another one that produced like 1/700 scale waterline warships. Used to enjoy looking at these, but the real stars of the show were the 1/350th that Tamiya produced. And just, wow. But now they seem to have been superseded by 1/200 scale. You know, so finding bigger ships in that 1/200 scale, and having watched some of the build videos that people have produced, it's just been phenomenal. So here we go for genres. But yeah, I mean, there are different genres. You know, you've got obviously ancients, you've got figures, you've got busts, you've got cars, you've got modern cars, classic cars, race cars, drag cars, you've got World War II, World War One, interwar years, post-war, Vietnam area, 1980s, modern, yeah, you know, loads of different genres. And I can remember these 1/12 scale like kits that you could get. I remember seeing those on shop shelves. And what was so when I think it was when Humbrol brought out Airfix, they switched over to packaging where you literally just saw a completed model on like some blueprint paper with a black background, and a lot of people didn't like that. I used to enjoy seeing the produced model. Super scenes. Now these I remember one of a shark with a diver in a shark cage. I think my brother had that. And then obviously the Airfix range of Star Wars kits, and being an avid Star Wars fan, because I was only 7 when my dad took me to see Star Wars in fact I might have only been 6. I wasn't quite 7 because it was 1977, I was born in 71. But yeah, big massive Star Wars fan, so I had a lot of the Star Wars kits as a kid. And then kit collecting. And there are people out there that will collect the old kits to try and preserve them. I must admit I've been guilty of having purchased some of the older kits with the express intent of building them, because you can't get them otherwise. Yeah, kit catalogue. I remember looking at the occasional kit catalogue. One of the models that I think my elder brothers had was the 1/144 scale passenger hovercraft, and that was a big kit, you know, even in that scale. Yeah, these, I don't know if this is them exactly. I don't know if it was the Airfix Eagles kits that did like different scenes, but I remember that. I specifically remember that one with the diver in the cage and the shark. I'm fairly certain it, you know, you had a bottle and then it was placed into sort of like a card backdrop. And enamel paints in tin pots. Oh my God. But yeah, just, I mean, this is very much, oh, here we go. I remember seeing this on the windowsill at home as a kid. Actually, was it the Saturn 1B or it might have been the Saturn 5 rocket? Might have been this. But I can remember it came in parts, you could take it apart. I remember that being on the windowsill in one of my brother's rooms. So yeah, 3D printing I think has taken over, and I've just bought a 3D printer for I've just bought a 3D printer to help me, and I have found a couple of like 172 scale or 176 scale accessories that I can print out for some of the models that I want to do, which will be great. But there you go, that was a look through classic kits, collecting the greatest model kits in the world from Airfix to Tamiya. I hope you enjoyed that, and me being nostalgic about rubbish. But hopefully you'll join me in the next video. I do have this as well, which is the 50 years of Airfix that I'd like to do a look through, again by Arthur Ward. So hopefully in a week or two I'll have that up and we can have a look through that together as well. Alright, take care, bye bye.